All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another Profluence Plus session, just highlighting community members, change makers in the space. Excited to be here with Andrew Petcash, co-founder of the community, and our good friend Jordan Gazdik. Jordan, what's up, brother? How we doing today?
What's up? What's up? Happy Monday. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, look, today's going to be pretty interactive, and I know you're, making some ripples in the sports space. So, for all the community members that have joined, let's just kick it off. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And then we'll let the conversation build.
Perfect. That sounds wonderful. So again, I'm Jordan Gazdik. I'm based down here in Southern California. Grew up in Los Angeles, but now down in Orange County with my wife and our 15-month-old son. And so it's been a lot of fun down here. We're enjoying it. But like everyone on this call and everyone in this community, kind of everything I do, it revolves around sports and is within that ecosystem. I think things kind of began obviously my whole life, but really growing up in sports. And some people may be able to resonate with this. I think as you're participating in sports, you're like, okay, for a career, I could either go pro or I could be a coach. And then sometime soon after that, for me, a third avenue opened up of, oh, I can be a sports agent. That's cool. They do business, they negotiate, they make a lot of money. And so early in college, I dove into the sports business, the sports agent and basketball agent vertical, helping out a few friends of mine. And then realized, okay, once I was in this space, there are a lot of different options and directions that I could go and pivot in that may best suit me and my interest and kind of my skill set there.
And Jordan, Jordan, for maybe just for context to help everyone out, I know you like to keep a lot of it private, but if you could go into some of the current projects you're working in, you got this mix of advisory, of investing, all over from youth sports all the way up to pro sports. So if you can highlight a few of those, I think it'll be good. Just context for everybody.
Yeah, two buckets we're focused in now is one on the investment side, really big on what I call sports services and properties, that being teams, of course, but then also agencies, youth sports providers, financial groups, that do provide these unique services within sports. So investment wise, we're focused on that. I think trendy in the non-sports area is you hear all these podcasts and LinkedIn people talking about acquiring laundromats and car washes. I kind of like to think we're looking to do the same thing in sports, whether it's a sports agency that I wouldn't call it distressed, but is opportunistic or different things in that vertical. And then the other side is we've had a lot of success and a lot of good traction in advisory for earlier stage sports companies, whether it's through new distribution or growth or strategic partners with athletes. And we're looking to take that and have been taking that to a more global approach. Of if you're a US based company, we love to take you to, let us help you expand in Austria and Korea because we've identified these as two markets for you. Or if it's a Korean based company or a Japan based company or a company in Finland, let's help you bring you to the US. All within sports, all within that sports ecosystem. So those are the two main buckets right now, focused kind of on the more traditional investment side within teams and leagues and sports services. And then I would say we look to be growth partners to earlier stage sports health and wellness companies on a global level.
And you have a good amount in we'll call it the youth sports space, or even maybe dipping into the collegiate or amateur sports. We had Daniel Poneman on a couple of weeks ago. Obviously,
friend of the pod.
And an investor there for you as well. We had Ryan Silver on. Obviously, many of these guests coming through you. But tell us a little bit more about what interests you in the youth sports space and what others should be paying attention to and why you're willing to put your own capital, time, and energy into it.
Youth sports is so intriguing for a number of reasons. One of them being if you want to play at kind of the highest level of the pro level, you can't ignore the foundational element that builds all of it, because without youth sports, we have nothing at the top. And so a focus on that is incredible. And then from a business standpoint, you're dealing, especially with Ryan Silver, with where he's at of middle school and high school basketball players and athletes. And whether it's, being their team or product being solicited to them, you're dealing with the top buyer in the world, which is the mom of a child and a, you know, 30 to 50-year-old mother, which is an incredible buyer, has all the buying power. And so we work hard to make sure they have what they need to take care of their kids and help their kids achieve the dreams they have of being professional athletes or being college athletes or being, enjoying their sports. To kind of go off that, you had Daniel Poneman on, a close partner and friend of mine, who is, I would say, is the leader in the NIL space, especially in basketball. That's been a lot of fun, as pro sports level is pretty established in how things work and the systems there. But in youth and especially college now, it is a wild west where we can be on the front line of reforming policies and creating new opportunities and added revenue to both players and teams. So coming into my career at this stage, at this forefront of an industry, has been a lot of fun, and a reason we have doubled down on the youth and NIL.
And obviously a lot of startup and company founders here, how should they be approaching youth sports and NIL? How do you look at it as an opportunistic? And obviously you're more involved on the athlete side of it, but for anyone building companies, what should they be paying attention to or have their eye on?
This is a great question, and something I had a discussion with someone the other day. I think in sports, and this might be a long-worded way of answering your question. I think in sports, obviously, it starts as such a passion for a lot of us. I think if you look at something like enterprise software, I don't know if a lot of people grew up watching enterprise software on TV and like, this is what I'm going to do. But it's very strictly business. Sports, we all grew up as passion first. So I think a lot of time that skews our vision in business. And we say, I love this sport. I have a passion for it. Oh, I have a cool business idea. I'm just going to pop this up. Meanwhile, there might not actually be a market need for it, or the market might not actually be asking for what you're creating. I use that enterprise software example as often because it's kind of the opposite. It's a boring thing, it's a big thing, but people say there's a massive need between Fortune 500 companies. We're going to create this software product for them. Sports seems to work in the opposite, which I think hurts a lot of founders, as they say, here's a cool idea. We love sports. Let me pop this up and see if it sticks. And often it isn't. So I guess the advice would be kind of take a step back and see what really is the need. What is the market asking for? We see a lot of founders come to us looking for capital, and a major issue we see is that they are going to have to spend a lot of time and capital even convincing the market that they have an issue that the market isn't aware of or consumers aren't aware of before they can even get to the level of educating the market or the consumers that their product is the absolute best. If I were to start a hydration company right now, it would be pretty easy because everyone knows it would be pretty easy to get to the education marketing standpoint because everyone knows they need to be hydrated. All I need to do is tell them why mine is better than Gatorade. Meanwhile, I see some pretty obscure startups in sports of saying, wait, why does my child even need this product in the first place, let alone be yours? So I guess that might be a pessimistic way of looking at it, but maybe a call to take a step back and say, am I actually fulfilling a need here?
I think that's really well said. I want to piggyback that if you don't mind, just for throw a stat out there, there's 21,000 sports tech founders globally. And I thought that was pretty astounding, as there's not 21,000 problems to solve, right? And we watch this roll-up strategy, continue to be executed in sports. Jordan, my question for you is, having sort of the global perspective of sports and, looking at, obviously evaluating a lot of deal flow here stateside, what are some of the criteria that you look for to say, hey, this could be a good fit in an emerging market in Korea or Thailand or, Australia with some sports? I'm curious, sort of break down that, how you make those decisions.
It's a great question. And obviously something I'm still working through every day. But I have two kind of wake up calls towards this. A close friend of mine is Craig Thompson, founder of UEFA Champions League, and now a great investor in this space. And him and I were at lunch one day, and he's like, oh, he was like, what do you do, Jordan? And I'm, just sports and global and all this stuff. And he's like, okay, cool. And you think, sports? He goes, what's the number 2 sport in the world? I'm like, I'm not sure. And he goes, okay, it's cricket. I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't know that. And then he goes, all right, so for sure, someone who says that all they do is sports, he goes, name me just one player in cricket. You can name me the Michael Jordan of cricket, anyone. And I was just kind of sitting there quiet. And he goes, all right, name me one term in cricket, just the most like, what's the equivalent of a touchdown? And I couldn't do that either. And so it was kind of a wake up call to me of saying, okay, I think I'm pretty confident in my intellect of sports, I guess here in the United States and the network here, but who am I to say I'm serving this community if I can't even serve one of the largest demographics in it? And then fast forward a little bit to another close friend of mine that we work closely with is the Ursek family. And they do a lot globally in their history. And Benon Ursek is a partner of mine on kind of this global partner expansion that we have. And we were talking with Benon's dad, who does, again, his companies have always looked at different countries and cultures. And he said, Jordan, there's a difference between international companies and global companies. He said, I see international companies as companies who are based in one location and sure have the ability to sell and ship their products all across the world to whoever orders it. Global companies have very strategic structures and direction and campaigns around the specific global community they're based in. And so that kind of resonated with me of saying, hey, we have a lot of companies in the US who have a ton of success in sports health and wellness. But who are we to say that this success that they have in the demographic in the United States will translate easily to South Africa? And maybe not all companies are built to do that in South Africa or Ireland or the UK, but perhaps we can identify the correct market for it. So it requires a lot of research of saying, okay, a hypothetical golf simulator company is having a lot of success in the United States. You know, where's the demographic globally that could accept this and have the appetite for it in the same capacity?
Very cool. One more question on my side, and Petty, I'll kick it over to you. Jordan, I'm curious, we have Tony Ryan here. We have some folks in the community that are doing a lot on the betting side. And, I think fan engagement is one of the biggest things that we see coming up or bubbling up with a bunch of different ideas on how to drive engagement, whether it is betting, investing, gamification, etc. My more dialed in question is, as you look at some of the global markets, are they trying to model after the Western way of commercialization or take bits and pieces and, iterate on it in their, to their own constituents? What are you seeing from sort of a trend perspective outside of the US with betting and fan engagement?
That's a great question. And it's been really fun to explore as I kind of see this in two different buckets. One, traditional betting, and definitely is trying to mimic what we're doing here in the United States. That is been massive. Also, Australia has incredible success in this space as well. Traditionally, as a society, they're very proficient in the betting capacity, and so it's been very intriguing to see. I'll be transparent. We do not do anything in betting. And that is for not so much a lack of thesis, just a lack of experience and ability to actually help the founders in that industry or the teams or people in there. The fan engagement side is something I've even called Andrew before and said, hey, who's going to win this fan engagement battle? Not so much if you think about betting, but if you think about that next level connection between fans and their favorite teams or their favorite athletes. I don't know if anyone's done it yet, and really excited to see who does it. And we've dove deep into this around each sport. The NBA has a culture, the players have a culture. Meanwhile, tennis in Europe has a really interesting culture, and those athletes move different than the NBA athletes. F1 is different, cricket's different, soccer's different. And so it's been fun to almost take it sport by sport and culture by culture to see how fans engage with those athletes and the athletes' appetite to reciprocate that love back to the fan. And so it's been refreshing to see founders in each different community and culture and country take a different stab at this because the culture and country is so different than the other. I will say, I think the US is going to struggle a lot with unlocking non-betting related fan engagement. It seems like Europe is doing a lot better job at it than the US is at this time.
Super interesting.
And Jordan, I'm curious, you mentioned a few of the families you work with, the Earth-6 or whatever, right? The dad's a CEO of Western Union. Like you work with a lot of these, we'll call them, mega wealthy, super high net worth families. How are they looking at sports? What are the areas that are interesting to them? Because we've seen this great influx of trying to buy teams and leagues and all this. So what are some of those connects? I know you have a lot of other ones that you work alongside as well. what are they looking at from their own personal portfolios or funds or however family offices?
It's been fun to see different appetites, and a lot of it has to do with their experiences um and with their friends' experiences as well. As individuals in this level of tax bracket and net worth usually have a friend or two who have taken a stab traditionally at in the sports space and traditionally sports ownership. And so they say, "Oh, my friend was an owner of this team and it went terrible and he lost everything. So we're not interested in team ownership, but we're interested in the youth movement." Or, "Hey, this is more of a passion play for me. I grew up in this town in Europe and we have a football basketball club in my city and I want to acquire it and kind of do the Wrexham model and make this my longtime passion and see if we can do something good for the community." So there's been a few different buckets, but the underlying effect is all of these families I work closely with and we invest alongside with all have a level of FOMO and feel like they're missing out a bit just because they see it on sports on every headline. They see friends are doing it. And so they're moving quite quickly to find where to allocate capital within the sports ecosystem and what is best for them. If it's venture side, PE side, sports team ownership side, they're very actively trying to find the best fit for them.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Look, at just for the sake of time, I want to be able to open it up so that, we have some folks, can ask some questions. Jordan, what's got you most excited in the space right now? Where are you looking to deploy capital and deploy resources? I know we have a wide array of folks in the community, but just try to, hone in. And if there are nuggets, just like to make strategic connections. So what's getting you excited?
This is a great question because I see the two buckets. Capital allocation wise, we're excited about emerging teams and leagues. Emerging teams, league, and then, like I said, services, whether it's a sports agency, a athlete focused private wealth group, things in that bucket. Where we do not allocate capital because I think we're not sure on the thesis yet, is consumer products at the moment in sports. However, there's a lot of success and traction, and that's where we focus heavily on being global partners of consumer products based in the US that we've seen have huge success, and say, "Hey, we think this market globally can replicate this success and take on like the US has," and the opposite. So we're looking at both buckets very actively, but for two different reasons. And being able to balance that out has been a fun job for us, and seeing where we can actually provide value. I think we're big believers. I was talking to a partner of mine of, if the founder has to convince me on the opportunity through the first or second or third meeting, I'm not the partner or the investor for them. Because if I need convinced, then I shouldn't be there to be your champion and to support you and everything. And so that maybe is a little ignorant in scope, but it's like, hey, we got to be able to play to our strengths. And if I can't appreciate what you've built, I shouldn't be a part of your team. And so we're kind of looking for founders where our experience up to now allows us to really appreciate what they've done and think we can actually help, whether it's through investment or kind of be their partners.
No,
Super cool.
super cool. Look, we got about 20 of us here on the call today, and Jordan's super active in the ecosystem, but with the last 10 minutes of the call, want to open it up to anybody. If you want to raise your virtual hand, if you have questions for Jordan or want deeper insights to anything, feel free, and we'll bring you on the stage. Miles, my man, floor is yours.
Hey, Jordan. Thanks for being on, man. Really great insight. I wanted to touch on quick. You had mentioned the fan engagement side being. Hold on, there's like some background voice. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So you were saying in America, it's more predicated on the betting side, but in Europe, they've been able to successfully do it without the betting side. And so I'm wondering if you can give some examples into that.
Great question. Let me dive into that a little bit. So I see, to kind of clarify a bit, I see the fan engagement side in two parts. One is betting related and one's non-betting related. We don't look much into the betting related side, so I'll kind of stay away from that. But on the non-betting fan engagement, we see that as, I guess, the industry that Cameo is a leader in, of connecting fans deeper to either their teams or their favorite players. So, there will be a cool world where an individual, a fan, I can pick, the halftime performance for the Lakers if I'm a diehard Lakers fan, or help with jersey selection, or make me feel like I'm an exclusive member of this team and fan group. And then also, if LeBron James is my favorite athlete, how can I actually get connected to LeBron James and feel like I'm of value to him and he's of value to me in some sort. In Europe, and I think this goes down to a deeper cultural thing that maybe I'm not qualified to address, but especially in the US and with our major sports, these athletes are such celebrities and are on such a level that there's such a disconnect where and I don't want to speak for everyone, but they don't need the fans in any capacity. And what is an NBA All-Star? What does he get from engaging with 20 fans who pay for his exclusive friend group? I'm not sure. And I don't think anyone's cracked it yet. In Europe, though, I've seen, especially with some of these, because they have a lot more attention towards these leagues that aren't the NBA and NFL, like tennis and some in golf and some in F1 and some in paddle and a few others. There are these really, larger name athletes within these specific communities that are willing and do find reward in connecting to an exclusive fan group or providing these services to connect deeper to their fans, because I guess it does have some value to them, whatever that ROI is in these athletes' mind. And it is a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing. It's kind of hard. You need, there's a lot of, I would say, lower mid-level athletes in the US willing to do this fan engagement thing, but they aren't going to bring the right fans or enough fans to make it work for the business. And so I guess that's a deeper dive into my thesis. And if let me know if I didn't specifically answer the question. There's more I can share on it.
No, yeah, you did. And I know we're on a time crunch. So if it's possible, could I email you some other questions that I'm gonna have towards that topic?
Please. I will drop my email. What's best, Scott and Andrew, in the chat or something, so we can all contact me?
Yep, do that. We'll drop Jordan's personal information when we repost this as well in the thread. And you can always just hit him on Circle as well. And, it's a direct line there. So multiple ways to get in touch with Jordan. We're going to go to Tony and then Matt. And I know we're going to probably butt up here to the half-hour time allotted, but if you guys are able to stay, we'll roll this a few minutes after. So Tony, floor is yours, bud.
Thanks. And yeah, sorry if my voice is Lollapalooza in Chicago. So I apologize for a little raspiness here on a Monday. But Jordan, I just wanted to ask you around, right now, I'm talking about fan engagement, and obviously the sports rights and sports media world is as hot as ever. Amazon's in the world throwing hundreds of billions into it, Apple's and Netflix's and all things. And obviously, right, that's creating a lot of current revenue for the leagues. But you're going to see this upcoming season where things are just going to become more and more fragmented from a user and consumer standpoint, as you need 5 streaming services for the NFL, 5 for the NBA and other things. And so how do you think, when you're looking at fan engagement in a more fragmented ecosystem from sports watching, do you see any of the leagues, kind of evolving with that to, address that as it becomes a bigger problem amongst their fan bases, specifically with younger consumers?
This is a great question. And I think a big kind of hot item is, how do you, Gen Z, Gen X, these next generations, how do you engage them in watching sports? And I think I'm a perfect case study of this. I find myself very rarely sitting down to watch any sort of sports game anymore, when I can just get everything I need on Twitter within 20 seconds. And so it is a great question. And I think it kind of comes back to the needs of the leagues and if they're forced to do something. The NBA, NFL, I can even say maybe MLB and MLS, will they ever be forced to do something? I am not sure, because these media right dollars are still there and they're still so large. If this deal didn't get signed recently in the NBA, and the Amazons and the NBCs and all the other bidders are saying, actually, these next generations aren't that interested, we're offering you guys pennies on the dollar, but we thought, then that would be a wake-up call for the NBA and some of these leagues to do something different. But as the dollars are still great and still large, I think they will keep rolling for a bit. Something really interesting we've seen in Europe is a few European basketball leagues and football leagues have engaged a few of the larger social media platforms in this space. Some of them even being meme pages and saying, hey, can you go live on Twitch or go live on Instagram our games? Can you be a broadcast partner of ours? Because they have such large global reaches. And so it seems in Europe, they are getting really creative because they don't have the same bidders that the big four leagues in the United States have, which has been interesting to see. And it's like, how can we go meet this next generation of sports view of where they're at? Okay, whether it's on social or something else, and just make it more accessible so they know we're here and they can see our product. I do think the ESPNs, obviously, and the broadcasters themselves, the Amazons will have an issue ahead of them to figure out how to get the amount of viewers on that they need to make this worthy investment and this purchase price makes sense. Obviously, they're each industry leaders in it, but it will take a large amount of creativity at such a massive level.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, of course.
Matt,
my man, what's going on in Chicago?
Not much. Did not go to Lala, but I'm sure Tony had a great time. Thanks for having us, or thanks for spending some time here today, Jordan. You answered one of Scott's questions talking about capital allocation to emerging teams and leagues. Is that like teams and leagues that are under the umbrella of the major four sports, or you think it's outside of those major four sports?
We're looking a bit outside of major four, something that I know Profluence is very passionate about and focused on. So outside of major four, and then in leagues that have promotion and relegation and teams that are positioned well to take advantage of that situation. I think then we have a level of vetting, whether it's pickleball or it's paddle or it's USL soccer or it's the PLL of different levels of, okay, what do we see as? I think there's a difference between, and maybe this is kind of one of my hot takes on pickleball. I'll go out and share it. I think pickleball is one of the greatest participatory sports we've ever seen, for obvious reasons. But I think personally, it is a terrible viewership and spectator sport. Every year there is one of the top pickleball tournaments at my local gym here in Southern California. And it's hard for me to watch at times, I'll be completely honest. So we have walked away from an investment standpoint from pickleball. And so it's kind of a matter of those decisions of what we see. And unfortunately, these are business decisions. So as much as we love playing pickleball in this situation, it's hard for me to back from a business standpoint, just from what we've seen so far. Sorry to digress a little bit, but yes, it's kind of talking about leagues and teams outside of the big four.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And then how do you decide between two horses going for the same league, whether it's padel or cricket, trying to emerge as like the premier league in that sport? Is there something that you're looking for between two horses going for the same thing?
Yeah, hard. Jockey's a big one. Who's riding the horse and who's steering the horse is a huge one that we found. It takes a pretty incredible decision maker and leader, especially to globalize the sport at this level. And so if we believe kind of the right people are behind it, or if the roadblocks aren't as large as the other, I think that's the main focus of ours. And which is hard. It's who's the people driving a sports league. Sometimes it's hard to pin down if there isn't a clear commissioner or rather league, but who's driving a sport like padel. There's a few different people involved there. But if we can get to know enough of them to make us feel good about the direction of it, then it'll be great. Also, it's been fun to examine across different countries. We were just in Italy checking out a multi-court paddle unit and complex there, and it was really fun to see. And then to be down in Miami and see what they're doing there, or here in Los Angeles and the development of the sport here. So those things can kind of confirm to us in one way or another if things are headed in the direction we want them to be.
Jordan, curious,
Thanks,
not to eat up the questions here, but off that, what about these alternative formats like a 3-on-3 basketball or some of these offshoots of traditional popular sports,
or a par 3 golf league?
Yeah, I think you look at it in a couple buckets. Again, is this what's a win for these leagues, and where does the revenue come from? Is it coming from participation or spectators? And then you can kind of go off that direction. If they have a pretty robust model if a pickleball league has a really robust model to profit and find profitability through participation, then that's incredible. But if it's through spectatorship, like that would be an interesting case study for us to see. Same with the par 3 league. From our participation standpoint, incredible. If it's a par 3 league where they can get the biggest names and we have a chance at a hole-in-one every hole, that is absolutely a golf league I would personally tune into rather than the traditional ones even happening now. So I think it comes back to, that's how I would look at it, is what's the bucket and what's kind of the goal.
Very cool. We got time maybe for one more question. If anybody,
Yeah.
Kim with the real hand raise.
Sorry, everything else was kind of cut off because I think we're after.
Yes.
Okay, so Jordan, yeah, I love hearing what you've said. It's basically what I've been thinking about for the last 3 or 4 years. I run a mental health company that services
Awesome.
emerging leagues. We already service most of the emerging leagues right now, which is pretty cool. So we've been able to watch them grow from the inside as their mental health.
Really cool.
So we'll talk, which will be great, or at least I'll forward you our deck. My biggest question is, I'm obsessed with the mom economy. One, I am a 48-year-old mom with a college athlete and 2 other kids. They are the #1 purveyors of mental health services in the world. It's the mom who's going to take care of you, regardless of if you're 30 right now. Your mom would probably be helping you get into therapy if you needed it. My question, and I think it's all tied together, what you find exciting is important to a mom. So I rent out a cabana every year at TST, which is a 3-on-3 soccer tournament. So all of my friends and my children can enjoy that time, right? So how do you sell the experiences to moms? And this is something I've thought through a lot because it's where I target, even in B2B marketing, these athletes are still 18 to 25 and their moms are still buying their healthcare, right? So if you get in with their moms and you put pressure on the leagues because the moms are still involved, I know that sounds wild, but they are, you have much greater success. And actually we'll send out parent newsletters in the USL to people who are playing overseas.
Cool.
We take care of the USLPA. We'll send notes to their parents about how they're doing because they're 20, right? So can you talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned it in the beginning, about your kind of mom economy thinking?
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it. I mean, moms are such champions of their kids. Moms are much smarter decision makers than us, and moms kind of know best. And it seems cliche, but it really is that point. And in your positioning, as you know so well, especially if an athlete's 30 years old, when they're at that level where they finally realize they need some help, they're probably calling their mom or their dad, more than anyone else. Not a teammate, not a coach, they're calling mom. So that's a really powerful call and positioning there. I think the idea of quote unquote team moms is powerful. A lot of people are focused now on creators and social media influencers, which I believe has been quite inflated. I think now we have a lot of creators with a lot of followers, but we need to take a step back. And, the word influencer is cliche and gets teased about, but who actually has influence and who actually carries weight for the goal of your business. And I think as something as intimate as yours, it could be, these, what I like to say, team moms. And it doesn't have to be the mom with 1 million followers, but we all know that one mom in the community that all the other moms look up to and really trust. And that mom actually can push the needle and, share this news with 10 other moms, which will actually push the needle for you and actually drive return instead of creator influencer mom sharing it to her hundreds of thousands of followers and it just being another post people scroll past. And so it's been fun to see companies get a lot more intimate and a lot more, I'd even say robust, of targeting not the biggest names or the most followers, but people who actually carry weight in their communities and can make a difference and champion the service or product. And so it could be cool from your standpoint, especially such a powerful purpose.
Yeah, and they're so interconnected. We're already finding that, a female plays in one league and then they go to the next league and the mom tells the athletic trainer, well, why don't you have what they had at the previous league? And then we get hired by the new league, right? It's
perfect.
And that was a mom.
Yeah, it's what it takes.
Right.
And I think it's interesting. And I think it's interesting, Kim, to your point, right? Like, I mean, they all have different perspectives of this ecosystem, right? And it's where, who's actually participating, who's making the business decisions, and then who's pushing this whole thing forward. And I think that one example right there really shows the breadth of, we're building in sports, but it touches all aspects of life. And I think that is what's so exciting here. I think that's going to sort of bring us home today.
Scott,
Randy, exercise.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing really quickly?
Yep.
Jordan, thank you for being here. And Kim,
Of course.
you have such an unfair advantage when you're dealing with moms. The secret is very, very simple. The more specific that you can get about their children in communicating, the better. So even if it means Tommy or Mary, and oh, I heard that they rolled their ankle, what's going on? The more specific that you can be when you're dealing with parents, you can grab them by the heart and they'll always remember because you were specific. Oh, I saw they had a hat trick. Instead of using mass marketing like, oh, to all the moms. So if you ever want to talk offline, I'm Randy, I'm available, but you have a very unfair advantage in that market, and it's on you and your team to touch them in ways where they will always keep you top of mind. I'm happy to talk with you anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And
Love
if
that, Mike.
Scott, if we have one more minute, I love what Randy said. Can I share one more thing?
Yeah, please.
Huge believer in maximizing your unfair advantage. Some people might call it a moat, some other things. I was just talking to someone the other day and I was like, hey, look, if you're 7'2" with a 40-inch vertical and can shoot 48% from three, and your goal in life is to be a professional athlete, you probably should not be a figure skater or a gymnast. Even if your family member, even if your dad is a world-renowned gymnast, you should probably go play basketball. And you'll have, you have the unfair advantage to be a basketball player. I was just in the gym a couple weeks ago, visiting a friend of mine up in LA. He's one of the top NBA basketball trainers. And he had a few guys in there I was saying hi to, and he had this young girl rebounding for him. She was rebounding for him and passing the balls out to the players. And I went over to my friend and I was like, hey, who is this? Because he usually has local high school basketball players help, and she clearly wasn't. And I was like, hey, who is that? And he goes, oh, it's really interesting. She just graduated from USC Law School and she wants to be a sports agent. And so I hired her as my intern so she can get to know players and get started in the league. And we kind of had two reactions. One was like, wow, really respect to her for grinding this out and kind of doing the ugly thing. But then I kind of had this hesitancy of, she has such an unfair advantage of graduating from this law school that I dream I could have and would have. And perhaps the industry she's even chasing, being a sports agent, isn't appreciating her the way she should be appreciated and the things she has done. And so I guess if I could share that as kind of parting words, is it's always good to introspect and find your real unfair advantages where, no one can beat you at the game of being you. So where can you look back and say, hey, this really sets me apart. Let's maximize this, especially in the world of sports.
I think that's the way we're going to end this. Jordan, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy Monday to come and share this wisdom with our community. As I mentioned at the top of the call, we're going to drop the follow-up recap so you guys can go ahead and take these nuggets and apply them. Feel free to reach out to Jordan on Circle. We'll also post his email. And until next time, my friend, I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Scott and Andrew, and everyone. Please, everyone reach out and happy to be here anytime.
Awesome.
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thanks, Jay.
Everyone, have a great Monday. Talk soon.